God sucks. Hello, my name is Imran, and in this video, I'm going to talk about God. G-O-D. The big kahuna. The most controversial figure on this planet, next to his only begotten son. I think that's the right terminology, right? Jesus, right? But, you know, the topic of God and the topic of religion and the topic of science and the topic of this and the topic of that and all this stuff in the 3D world that we get so caught up in is so ridiculous at the end of the day. But I'm going to just stick with the topic at hand. G-O-D, God. God sucks, right? If you think about it, God created everything and obviously made a mess of it because the whole world is just completely falling apart and most people are just crazy, or like me, right? Totally crazy, and the focus is all wrong and people are just doing whatever they're doing, and they're sick and they're raping the planet and killing each other and hurting animals and destroying nature and the climate and all of this sort of stuff. And who's to blame? All right? God needs to be blamed for it all because God created it all. And then who even said that God even exists, right? And there's so many people out there that don't even believe in a God, right? Because who would want to believe in some fairy tale guy that's sitting up in the sky and passing judgment on everyone and doing all the crazy stuff that the Bible says and a lot of other different religions and belief systems all say that is due to God, you know? And then you've got science and the atheists and all these people that don't like God either and think that God's just a joke and doesn't even exist, and there is no evidence to prove that there is even a God at all. And me, of all people, I use the word God all the time in my videos and content and stuff like that. And a lot of people go, "What? You know, why do you use the word God?" And so forth. And it's because, why can't I use the word God? Does it trigger you? Well, based on everything that I've said, it's quite a big trigger for a lot of people. And it's because of all of what I just said. There's all this BS around the word God. And there's all these distorted belief systems around God. And the truth is, it doesn't even matter if God exists because every single person seems to have a different definition of what God is. And then even within the religions, you've got, my God is better than your God. And people will fight and kill each other to the death, and there have been many wars, over God. And who has the rights to this, and who has the rights to that, and who is truly the chosen people versus the non-chosen people, and all of this sort of crazy stuff. Now, listen, I'm not one to judge, okay, even though, you know, I might make a joke of it right now. I really don't care what people believe, right? I truly don't. I truly don't care what people believe. People can believe whatever they want. All I can say is my belief and my experience of myself, of my divinity, of my interconnectedness with everything, which I have experienced thousands of times throughout the last 30 plus years. I've experienced it in full physical awakened states without any drugs or anything at all, in some cases plus or minus decades of no drugs or no alcohol and nothing at all, because I lived in an ashram. And then I've had the experience on drugs and psychedelics and all of that. I had the experience, I was in Greece. I can't remember exactly where it was, but somewhere in Greece. I think it was somewhere in Athens, maybe. I was just walking along in the street, because I was going to all the different sacred sites, and so I was going to all the power centers and everything like that. And I remember I'm just walking along, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, like all of a sudden everything just became one in a flash. And then boom, I was sort of like back in my body. Just weird experiences like that even. When I meditate, I wouldn't say on a daily basis, because every day, I have my ups and downs, and my meditations are sometimes crazy powerful. And other times it's a bit difficult to get into it and takes a little bit longer, and it can sometimes have to do with my night before, how well I slept, the food that I ate, the emotional stuff that's flushing up because I'm telling the universe that I want everything that I could possibly have, to have all the love and have all of my issues and all of my wounds and all the non-love pulled out of me. That's what I do in my meditations, because meditation is for communication. It's not about sitting there and relaxing and chilling out, right? That is a part of meditation. It's actually a benefit of meditation, is the relaxation part, right? And the stress relief and the healing that it does and all of that. But if you're not engaging with yourself and you're not using it for what it truly is, you're missing out. You're just missing out, okay? Now, I've been meditating for 30 years. I've been on the spiritual path for 30 plus years. I've traveled all over the world. I've had crazy experiences. I remember once in Mount Shasta, this was back in late 1997, it was. May of 1997. I was in Mount Shasta, and I was in a hostel, sleeping in a room with about 6 other people. It was a youth hostel. I was backpacking at the time. I was at a spiritual festival, and I was lying in bed and sleeping. And all of a sudden, poof, this explosion happens in my third eye, and this light just washes over my whole body, right? I actually wake up, obviously, right? Because I feel this explosion. And this light washes over my whole body. And as it's washing over my whole body, I'm losing all sensation of my body, right? And I'm lying there and I'm sort of stunned. I wouldn't say I wasn't afraid, but it was freaky because my body disappeared. Like I had no feelings. Like I couldn't feel my hands, I couldn't feel my legs, I couldn't feel anything, and I couldn't move. And I was just like, wow, okay, I don't know what to do with this. And then I just sort of fell asleep. And then a few hours later, I woke up, and then I was half in, half out, and in a daze and all of that. And then I fell back asleep, and then I woke up the next day and did whatever I did in Mount Shasta. And that was an experience of where my light body was washing over my body, and I was obviously going through a spiritual activation, and that was a very powerful trip. And Mount Shasta is a very, very powerful spiritual center. It's a very powerful spiritual place. And that was without any substances whatsoever. I remember once when I was in Luxor, Egypt. And I was on a pilgrimage. I had a group of people. I was producing the pilgrimage. And I had 30 to 60 people with me on that trip that I was producing and hosting. And I had my guru with me at the time, and people started popping like kernels and having these massive experiences of falling all over the ground and writhing. About out of the I don't know, 30 to 40 odd people, probably about 15 people had these massive experiences and fell on the ground, and they were shaking and convulsing and all of this sort of craziness, and we had to lift people out, etc., etc. Had that happen so many times in the ashram, and there are different events of light just coming into people and them having an experience of their divinity and activations and stuff like that. I remember one time it was just outside of Jordan. I think it was still in Israel, but there was just outside of Jordan, near the Israel-Jordan border, and we were staying in a hotel room, and there was a pilgrimage. It was the Israeli and Jordan pilgrimage that I had produced, and we had a group gathering, and I had my guru there, and I have had a lot of big, massive experiences, and then I had another one, and so in this case, I had this massive experience of where light just came fully into my body, and I was just like, like this tree trunk of energy just going straight into my body, and I could feel energetically like these giant wings just grow out of my back, and I was like 10 foot tall energetically, even though I was in my physical body, and I was like literally like convulsing, and there was people like holding me as I was having this massive experience that was actually facilitated through my guru at the time. And it was a physical experience. It wasn't some made up thing. It wasn't something that happened in a meditation. It wasn't something, there was a visualization technique. There weren't any substances that were taken in order to facilitate this sort of stuff. I mean, I can talk about drug-induced stuff that I've had too. I've had so many experiences. When I was in Uluru in Central Australia, I got beamed up onto a spaceship, a Pleiadian spaceship that was, actually, it was a family, like literally a husband, wife, and 2 kids, long, beautiful, blonde hair, big blue eyes, and they just looked beautiful, like beautiful. It's the only way that I could describe it, how could I even describe their looks? It was almost like a mixture between humans and the greys, but not grey. They had the human complexion, but big, beautiful blue eyes, like human-like eyes, but big. A little bit like some of those dolls that they have for kids that have the big eyes and the big head and so forth. It was sort of like that. And they communicated to me telepathically, and there's a whole big story around all of that as well. I've seen spirits, I've seen ghosts, and have had brushes with them. I have performed exorcisms and pulled out entities from people more than once. In some cases unwittingly, and certainly without any prior knowledge that was even going to happen. It was just spontaneous. Now, why am I sharing all of this? Why am I just sort of throwing out one thing after the other, after the other, after the other? The reason why is because there is more to this reality than meets the eye. And the things that I've just thrown out are just the things that have just sort of come straight to my head, but they're not even a fraction of the experiences that I have had of my own divinity, of my own connection to oneness. Not even a fraction. And the majority of the stories that I have actually left out were also without any drugs or any psychedelics or any mind-altering substances at all, unless you call love/God a mind-altering substance. Okay? And it's really, really important. I don't share this to sort of say that I'm better than or worse than. No, I've traveled the world, right? I went to sacred sites. I spent time with shaman and healers and spiritual masters and lived in an ashram and did intensive trainings and all sorts of crazy ass stuff. I didn't read books. I've only just started really diving into certain books just to really catch up on what is being taught out there, and also to catch up on the sciences, right? Because the sciences are finally starting to prove what I've known intrinsically for decades just through my own inner experiences and ancient wisdom. Ancient spiritual wisdom has been saying since eons, right? Even some of this stuff is even encoded into the Bible and a lot of the spiritual and religious texts that are out there, some of which have been doctored, some of which have been manipulated, some of which have had information misinterpreted or just... We're humanity, right? And humans live in fear. And fear is the driving motivation of this separate experience that we are in. But you have to understand that God is neutral. The concept of God is neutral. It's not a male for sure. Okay, for sure. I mean, Jesus, we've seen what's happened in the world from the male dominant energy and the imbalances of the masculine and the feminine energies on the planet, right? We've seen it. Look at the Middle East. Look at all the different places around the world. Okay? And that energy is starting to balance out again. And there were times when it was imbalance. And there were times when the male energy was far less and the female energy was more. Like Lemuria. But the bottom line is that everything is interconnected. Everything, and science has proven this, everything is all one. And that we are experiencing ourselves as God from a minuscule perspective. And we have incarnated as souls onto this planet to have an experience. And as a matter of fact, this experience and the way that as a soul that we interpret this experience from the higher dimensional realms is completely neutral. It's completely neutral. There is no, at the end of the day, there is no good or bad. There just is. And that's what unconditional love is. That's what true peace is. It's just pure, unconditional love. It doesn't judge. It just is. And we are allowed to have whatever experience it is that we want in this realm. And that is what free will gives us and gifts us with. Now, the fact that we have abused free will and the fact that we have believed in this separate reality and therefore allowed fear to run rampant, some of which we couldn't help because there are cycles that happen in all of this creation, in this reality, where the vibration gets very low and dense. And then we go through the dark ages. And I'm oversimplifying things because there's a lot of manipulation and a lot of the information that's out there about the history of the planet, our history, reincarnation, and all the other types of stuff. But I just want to focus on certain concepts. The fact is that we're here to have an experience, and it's a neutral experience. You / me / us. We're the ones that are interpreting things as good or bad. We're the ones that are judging. We're the ones that are creating the reality that is out there in the world as a collective consciousness. And yes, when you incarnate into this realm, into this third dimensional experience / fourth dimensional now, because the vibration has increased and we are heading into a fifth dimensional reality. And so we are, especially awakened people that are awakening to the concepts that I'm talking about, are actually playing into and experiencing more of a fourth dimensional reality. And the more that you raise your vibration, the more that's the case. And that's why you will have more and more spiritual experiences. The more higher that your vibration is, the more that your consciousness is able to tap into the higher realms of truth and reality. And you're no longer confined and living with the blinders on, which the third dimensional reality, the lower dimensional frequencies, is, because it's denser. There's less that you're able to sort of push through, you know, if that's the only analogy I can think of. That's the only difference in the lower vibrations and the higher vibrations. And the people that are still in the lower vibrations, the people that are still buying into the fear and living out of fear and living in the lower frequency type energies and thought forms and emotions, they're the ones that create more and more pain and suffering, because the lower vibrational energies hurt. They're fear-based. They go against the very nature of who you are and who you were born to be, which is what I teach, is how people can tap into that and become self-sufficient and reliant upon what's inside of them, because what's inside of you is all of creation, or should I say, access to all of creation. And when you meditate, and you're able to drop the facade and the veil of your human form, the avatar that you're living this life through, because this is like a metaverse. It's just an illusion. It's a hologram, right? For your soul. Okay, your soul's like in a computer game, literally. Right? So when you allow yourself to drop that form by going within and still being conscious, right? Because when you sleep, what do you think happens when the dreams and when you in your REM sleep, and especially in your deep sleep and stuff like that, you actually go off into other realms and have other experiences. And even some of your dreams, in your dream times, you're processing so much stuff. And as a matter of fact, every single person that you interact with in your dreams, you're actually legitimately interacting with that individual, even if they don't even know it or recall it, because on a higher dimensional frequency, everything's all one. There is no separation. at all. So to be locked into these limiting perspectives of God and God's this mean person, it's just victim consciousness. It doesn't even feel good. Like, who wants to complain all the time and kvetch, and who wants to be in fear? Wouldn't you just want to enjoy life and be happy? Now, there is a caveat, right? Because in order to get to that level of consciousness, right, to truly be able to live as God on this planet and to live in total peace, you have to let the non-love out. You have to get all the non-love out. You have to get all the lower vibrational stuff out, all the conditioning, all the programming, all the things that limit you and hold you back. But meditation and going within and working with your higher self and your superconscious self is the single fastest way to do that. Period. The end. There's this saying, ask and you shall receive. That's all that I teach at the end of the day. All I teach is for how to people can go inside and how to actually communicate with their higher selves, with their God self, in order to facilitate the healing process and removing all the non-love in the quickest, fastest way possible, and to quite literally have your superconscious self override your free will in order to accelerate that process. Because we all have resistance, right? We all have blocks, we all have trauma, we all have all these things that try and prevent us from breaking out of the matrix, so to speak. And that's what we witness in the world, all the madness and all the craziness and all the dysfunction and all the judgments and, if you don't believe this, then you're that, and blah, 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 blah. All of that separate stuff is just anger. It's just fear. It's just the pain body of each individual being expressed into the collective consciousness. It's just fear at the end of the day. There's nothing wrong with anyone. No one's sick. No one's mentally ill. No one's broken. And it's not true that people aren't mentally ill. They sort of are, all right? And they make themselves mentally ill, and in some cases do need assistance, like dire assistance in some cases, because they've been so traumatized or conditioned, or the situation that they were born in physiologically, there's stuff that's happened in the physical form that might prevent them from being able to function like other people, right? But everybody chooses what they choose. And most people, how should I say this? No one is ever broken. No one is ever damaged. There's no mistakes ever made. And the universe / God, the oneness, allows it because we choose it. We're the ones choosing it. Now, just because you have your limited little body that you incarnate in for this particular lifetime that might last, if you're lucky, 70 to 100 years of age, or whatever the ages are. And then, some people get aborted, right? Some people live really long. Some people die of car accidents. Some people, whatever. Everything is happening according to the way that it needs to. And there is no collateral damage from a spiritual perspective. I'm not condoning any actions of anybody ever that's negative or that is non-loving and that is impeding and imposing their free will onto someone else's free will. Because that is the big cardinal no-no in the universe. Everything should be done with permission and with full transparency. And if it's not, then it's a big X on that. That's it. But everyone's breaking those rules. And then everyone's wondering why their lives are so miserable. Everyone's judging one another. Well, if you're going to judge people, then you have to lower your vibration to that level, and it's not going to feel as good as laughing and being happy and being loving and being welcoming and all of that. It's just logic. Now, at the same time, some people truly can't help it because of the pain, because of the trauma and the conditioning and the programming, and because the illusion, the vibration, the density of this plane of existence is very tough, right? And it's very real. And if you haven't broken out and you haven't gotten perspective and you haven't awoken yet, it's very difficult to break out of that and to get the help that you need, certainly through conventional means, because they're not equipped. Because most people deny almost everything that I say. As a matter of fact, any of the stuff that I would have just said, some people would say that I'm a charlatan and full of poop and that I'm making it up and blah, 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 blah. Now, less and less people are saying that because more and more people are waking up, because the world is changing. It's raising its vibration. It's heading into a higher frequency of love, of dimensions, of reality, and we are getting taken along for the ride. And what we're seeing is all this karma and all the non-love and all the stuff getting all flushed up. That's what it looks like. It's happening on an individual level, and it's happening on a global collective consciousness level as well. Neither good nor bad, just is, you know? And the question is, how do you want your life to look? Because the truth is, you have the full power to create whatever you want, to break out of it all. And when you get in touch with your true inner power, your God self, connect to the oneness of everything, and you align with that, and you utilize that to your advantage, then all bets are off. That's when you start creating miracles and blessings and these type of experiences and accelerations and just things that are just out of the ordinary. And then your life becomes more ease, grace, and flow. Now, is it easy? In theory, it's all very easy. It's choose love over non-love. That's it. And it's unconditional love, and unconditional love means unconditional love for you and for everybody else with that loving decision. Each loving decision has to or be automatically unconditionally loving for you and for everybody else in order for it to be truly a loving decision. Because there's no such thing as win-lose when it comes to love. It's either a win-win or a lose-lose for all of creation. So when you choose non-love, it's a lose-lose for everyone. When you choose love, it's a win-win for everyone. That's it. That's it. And sometimes choosing love might seem like you're choosing non-love to other people because they don't understand, because it's unconditionally loving for you. But the cool thing is that when you tap in to what's inside of you, and you're getting your guidance from your higher self, and you're working on getting all this stuff out, you're inherently protected. You're getting guidance, right? And when you make a mistake and do something that might be less than loving, if your intention is pure, then grace will step in. And there's an element of it building trust and building faith, right? All of these concepts that you may have heard through religious dogma and all of that sort of stuff, this is where they all came from. This is the source of all of that information. Get rid of all the stories, get rid of all the mumbo jumbo and all the stuff that's all conjecture and you can't really prove and all of that. But can I prove that God exists? Well, I can. And I have to myself. And I've proven that God is just me, everything. It's you. It's all of this. All of this is God. I've proven that to myself, and I've had the physical experience of that thousands of times over the past 30 plus years. So no one can take that away from me, you know? No one can take it away from me. You can crucify me like Jesus or whatever you want to do. It ain't going to change any of it, right? It isn't going to change any of it. It doesn't change the truth. And who cares? So what? If I lose my embodiment, okay. Just come back again if I need to. In a different form, different experience, and it would build upon this current one, because evolution continues. It's a foolproof system. You know, we want to enact all this revenge and all this sort of stuff on people and make people pay when they do bad things. What, do you honestly think that the universe can't handle all of that? Did you know when you put that energy out, you're incurring karma? Because it's non-loving energy and because you're literally putting your hand in the cookie jar of creation. You don't know what someone's supposed to have and not supposed to have. It's none of your business. Your only business is you. To be the best possible human being that you possibly can, the most unconditionally loving human being that you possibly can be, and to remove everything that's in the way of that, and to make your experience of this world the best possible experience that you can have. And that comes from within. Nothing outside of self is ever going to truly be able to make you happy. You'll get your dopamine hits, you know, when you go buy your fancy car, or you fall in love with someone, or you know, you'll have all of that sort of stuff, but it always dies down because nothing outside of self is real at the end of the day. They are aspects of you and they are tools, right? There are tools and there are great things and there are experiences to be had that all help facilitate everything that I'm talking about. But why not derive them from the inside out so that you draw to you exactly what you need when you need it, and you don't have to be grinding it out and living in frustration and fear and what's going to happen next and what do I need to do this and all. You just bring it in and allow it to move through you. That's it. That's it. Simple stuff. Not easy to do. Well, it sort of is, but it takes practice, right? It's easy for someone that's been doing this for 30 years, and you know, people can do this so much faster now. So much faster. Because times have changed, the vibration has changed, the energy has changed. It's amazing the time that we live in. You know, now we have science and technology and all this sort of stuff that's actually corroborating all of this. So now people have less and less of an excuse to say, this is all woo-woo hippie mumbo jumbo. Or this is all crazy, cultish, spiritual, new agey stuff. No. You know. What's inside of you, no one can ever take away because it's you. It's the real you. But who is the real you? When we've all been so conditioned, so programmed by our life circumstances and the situation that we chose to be born in. And we've believed it. And we were supposed to, because we were supposed to have those experiences. We needed to, because it made you who you are today and who you are becoming if you actually want it. And I say, why wouldn't you? Because I'll tell you what, when I'm full of love, holy moly, I am blissed out. Like, when I have some of my morning meditations, sometimes the experiences I go into are other earthly, like I literally leave into another realm and I'm in this experience of total peace, timelessness. And I can feel the energy and the things just moving from me, especially after I've been communicating and invoking it through my superconscious self and through my God self, and requesting for assistance and help with certain things that I've noticed, and certain non-love that I'm wanting to pull out and work on, and trauma and issues that have popped up. Oh my God, when you feel it just coming out of you and you're in that bubble of peace, it's like sometimes I don't even want to come out of meditation. It's so amazing. And yet we have most people wanting their 10-minute, 15-minute meditations. Why? You're not meditating then, truthfully. You're not really meditating. You're relaxing. You're relaxing, but you're not really meditating, because meditation is communication. And when you experience yourself as God, or as being an aspect of God, if that makes you feel more comfortable, this doesn't contradict the Bible and religions and all of these other things. This doesn't speak against it. This is not narcissistic in any way, shape, or form. Not if it's coming from unconditional love. Because the experience of God, your God self, the oneness, the peace, is unconditional love. And unconditional love doesn't judge, doesn't one-up people, doesn't lie, doesn't manipulate, isn't vain, doesn't need anything, knows who it is intrinsically in peace, in love, in the Zen state, whatever, just all the negative stuff, it just goes. It's impossible in that consciousness, in that place, to act in any lower vibrational ways. It's just not possible. Because I know that there's certain religious sects that say that anybody that says that you're God and this and that is of the devil. Okay. But this devil right here doesn't hurt and harm anyone, and just preaches and teaches love, and to be the best possible human being that you can be, to be kind and loving and not lie and not cheat and not hurt and harm anybody ever, and to trust in the universe, trust and have faith that everything is the way it's supposed to be, and that you are protected, and that you have the full power to create the life of your dreams. So if that's of the devil, and besides, who is the devil? It's, again, this whole manufactured concept. Now, a lot of people are going to start then bringing up stories of this and stories of that and all that. And that's what I'm just saying. The stories have just got to drop. Forget all the stories. The stories are the distraction. It's entertainment, and you can go and study the stories. It's great. There's a lot of evidence that proves that Atlantis existed and Lemuria existed, and civilizations that are still being found. And we know that the Great Flood existed. I was on a Pleiadian spacecraft, which I mentioned earlier, and all that. So I actually believe in extraterrestrials. you know, the other dimensional beings, and they're all good, by the way. All of my extraterrestrial experiences have all been good. Yet there are people that have very bad ones. Now, I could get into all the conspiracy theory stuff around it, but why would I? Why would I want to feed fear when I don't need to? Because I can tell you how to remove all of that fear and live from a place where you don't need to attract that sort of stuff to you. And I would much rather focus on empowering you to be all that you possibly can be in love, and to enjoy your experience and the healing process of getting all that non-love out of yourself, you know, and giving you the tools so that you can become self-sufficient and do it yourself. So you don't need people like me. You don't need to be buying courses and programs and this and that and all of that sort of stuff. You know, there's so much stuff out there. And it's from a lot of people that haven't really done a lot of real healing and real work, to be quite frank. You know, there's a lot of people out there that have read a few books and think they know everything, or taken a few courses from lesser teachers and think they know what they're talking about. Or they've taken psychedelics and that's their only experience of the oneness and God. And, you know, you can criticize me for saying it. You can get upset if this applies to you, but I don't care. It's just the truth. And I'm not perfect, and I'm not better than anyone else. No one, get this, no one is better than anyone else. Every single aspect of all of creation is equal. That's why it's one. That's why it's the oneness. That concept is a man-made human concept to usurp control and to play into the wounds and to feed the unworthiness inside of each and every single human being that we all are scarred with and that we all have in all the different ways. Even the most successful people have insecurities. Even the most beautiful people have insecurities and fears. Every single person does. I have so many insecurities and fears, it's not even funny. But I'm working on them, and I'm getting rid of them more and more and more and more quickly and fast. Just ripping it out of myself. Especially now that I'm doing these techniques that have been revealed through me and that I am teaching. But it takes practice, it takes effort, it takes desire, it takes willingness. And sometimes what comes up is very painful. It's very painful sometimes to go within and be honest. But when you understand that you're instantly forgiven if you forgive yourself, that nobody judges you unless you judge yourself. And if anyone outside of you judges you, they're judging themselves. You know, when you can get to that sense of self, you have freedom. Authenticity just oozes from you because you no longer need to feel like you need to be somebody else in order to be accepted. And who are you looking to be accepted by is the bigger question. So anyway, like I said, God sucks. Oh, that's so funny to me. Let's just blame God for everything, and let's just not take any responsibility. Let's not just change ourselves and make the world a better place, or make my life better, and just pretend like I'm not capable and all of this. And it's sad because when you're in it, it's very, 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 very real. Because I was in it too, and I was suicidal. I took antidepressants and Adderall and Wellbutrin and Ridderol or Ritalin or whatever it was that was prescribed to me at some point because I apparently needed it. I got rid of it all. I got rid of it all. Healed myself of it. Or just use what I have as a superpower, because we all have superpowers. All of your experiences, no matter how bad they are your superpower if you choose to reframe it and see the gift and the blessing of it. Because if you receive the gift of every single experience that you have ever had and turn it from a negative into the positive that it truly is, then you'll receive the blessing of it. And that blessing, who knows what that could be. But if at the very least it means you never have to have that negative experience ever again in your whole entire life, then wouldn't that be worth it? So like I said, the more open you are to the possibilities that everything in your life and everything that you have believed is conditioning and programming, and that you don't even know what unlimited possibilities lie within you and that are available to you in the world, the more that you allow yourself to have those beliefs, the more that you will be able to start experiencing the reality of it. And then you start creating this momentum, and you start becoming happier. You start becoming healthier. You start living a life that feels so magical and wonderful, whilst the rest of the world is still playing its game and living in whatever people are living in. It's not a good or a bad, it just is. It's just what people are living in and what they're choosing. This is about you. It's about what you want for yourself. It's not about anybody else. It never has been, and it never, ever, ever will be. Ever. Because you're the source of all of your experiences. You're the common denominator in every aspect of your life. The whole world could blow up and every single person in the world could die, and you would still be here. You're not dependent upon other people. All of your interpretations of your life has come from within you, and your conditioning and your programming that came from your parents, your upbringing, etc., etc., etc. But you have it. You clear that out. You establish the greatest relationship that you possibly can with yourself. You get honest. You make a genuine effort to be the most loving human being that you possibly can, no matter what. And you will experience everything that I have shared. You can. It's available to you. And You know, if you want to be around like-minded people, if you want to learn more about how you can go within and access that sort of stuff and how to communicate with your superconscious self, or you want to come onto one of my live reclaiming sessions where I begin that process with you and with a group of people, however many people show up, whether it's just you or 100 people, I don't care. It doesn't really matter to me. I just want to share and empower people to have the best possible life that they possibly can, and to be proactive about it. Because you've got to be proactive about it. You deserve it. Why? Because you exist. That's why. Because you're a human being and you're on this planet for a reason. And if you're not happy with your life, your circumstances, your relationships, your health, your wellness, your friends, your family, the way the world is, your job, your career, your business, whatever it is that you're not happy about, you can change. And you can glean everything you need to from it so that you can break out and break free and start creating what it is that you truly, truly want, and what truly, truly, truly makes your heart sing on the inside. That's worth it to me. And that's why that's my number one focus, you know, and it took me 20 plus years to truly, truly make it my number one focus, because I played all the games and I, you know, got caught up in all the craziness of the world, and I was living in an ashram, no less, you know, in business and wanting to make money and this and that and all the different trappings and things like that. And it's not that I didn't have some level of success, and it's not that I didn't have all these amazing experiences while I did, but there was still a part of me that resisted and that fought. And I didn't have all the tools that I have now available to me. And that's what I want to share with people, because it's important. It's important. Happiness is an inside job. So, once again, God sucks. Obviously, it's the exact opposite. But the perception of what God is has been very, very skewed. And it's not disrespectful to acknowledge that you're a part of the oneness and that you are loved. Even the Bible says that, we're all made in the image of God and all of that. I mean, come on. There's so many obvious things in some of these religious texts and so forth that people just sort of ignore or manipulate or contort, or because of the other stories and fanfare that's in there that have all been sort of mistranslated or misinterpreted or changed completely or rewritten, or certain parts that have been excluded that change the actual meaning of it and all of that. And I don't really want to get into all of that, right? Because at the end of the day, the point that I want to make is that doesn't matter. It really doesn't. When you understand that it's just about love, self-love, loving actions, and understanding that when you choose love, it's going to flush up all the non-love inside of you to be released. And that's what people avoid. That's what people are afraid of. Yet they don't realize that the avoidance and the fear of that is what's creating the pain and suffering in their lives, and they're living at a mediocre level, or at a level that they don't even realize what's beyond that, and what the true experience that you can have of self, and still be on this planet and live and be skipping in the heaven that is Earth, truly. So anyway, thank you. I'm not going to ramble on anymore. I made my point. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you're entertained. And please like, subscribe, share, join my Facebook group. Got tons of content. I'm trying to put out all sorts of different stuff, just experimenting. But I really need help, right? I really need help to get out there, and you sharing, you liking, you commenting, and all of that sort of stuff really, really helps, because it's difficult being a brand new content creator, and, you know, you're fighting against so many other people, and this sort of content isn't usually that popular, unfortunately, because some people find it to be challenging of their belief systems, and there's a lot of fear around it. And yet I hope that when you watch this sort of stuff, that you realize where I'm coming from, and that it helps maybe give you a different perspective. Because again, it just comes down to being open, right? It doesn't matter to me if someone's a Republican or a Democrat, or they're Christian or they're not, or they believe in God or they don't, or all of that. Every single person to me is exactly the same. They're just human beings living out their lives to whatever degree they can. And I hope that people see that through my content as well. So thank you, and goodbye.